There's a brutal truth. Nobody teaches you about power. Powerful people don't seek out those who need them. They seek out those they need. And there's an abyssal difference between these two positions. One puts you as a supplicant, begging for scraps of attention. The other puts you as a valuable resource, fought over by those who truly matter. Look around you. How many people do you know who spend their lives chasing CEOs, influencers, people of prestige? They send messages, request meetings, offer their services, beg for opportunities. And what do they get? Silence. Because they're playing the game completely wrong. Machiavelli observed something fascinating in Renaissance palaces. The courtiers who chased after the prince were ignored, but those who made themselves indispensable, those who possessed something the prince needed, they were the ones summoned to private chambers. They were the ones whose counsel was sought. They were the ones who held real influence. The difference wasn't luck. It wasn't connections. It wasn't even talent. It was understanding a fundamental law of power. Value flows toward scarcity, not toward abundance. When you make yourself abundant, available, eager, you become worthless. When you make yourself scarce, necessary, irreplaceable, you become priceless. Today, you're going to learn how to flip this dynamic completely, how to stop chasing powerful people and start making them chase you, how to become the person they call when they have a problem, how to position yourself so that your absence creates anxiety and your presence creates relief. This isn't about manipulation. This is about understanding the psychology of power and positioning yourself strategically within it. Because in the game of influence, it's not about who you know, it's about who needs to know you. Let's start with the mistake that destroys 99% of people before they even begin. They approach powerful people as fans, not as equals. They lead with admiration instead of value. They open conversations with, "I'm a huge fan of your work," or "I would love to learn from you," or "Could you spare 5 minutes for advice?" What just happened? You immediately positioned yourself as beneath them. You declared yourself a consumer of their value, not a provider of it. And powerful people have thousands of consumers. What they desperately need are providers. Machiavelli saw this dynamic play out endlessly. The ambassadors who approached foreign princes with flattery and supplication were dismissed quickly, but those who arrived with intelligence, resources, or strategic advantages were welcomed with open arms. The difference wasn't in their intentions. Both wanted something. The difference was in their positioning. When you chase powerful people, you trigger their scarcity detector in reverse. Instead of seeing opportunity, they see burden. Instead of seeing potential value, they see another person who wants to extract from them without giving back. And their natural response is to create distance. Think about this from their perspective. They receive hundreds of messages from people wanting mentorship, wanting connections, wanting opportunities. Their time is their most valuable asset, and everyone wants a piece of it. So they develop shields, filters, gatekeepers, entire systems designed to keep the needy away. But here's the fascinating part. Those same shields that keep the needy out become doors that let the valuable in. The CEO who ignores networking requests will personally call someone who can solve a problem they're facing. The influencer who never responds to fan mail will immediately reply to someone offering genuine value. The fundamental error is thinking that powerful people are motivated by ego and flattery. They're not. They're motivated by results and efficiency. They don't have time for people who make them feel important. They already know they're important. They have time for people who make them more effective. When you approach someone powerful as a fan, you're essentially saying, "I have nothing to offer except admiration." When you approach them as a peer with value, you're saying, "I have something that could benefit both of us." One position repels, the other attracts. The moment you stop seeing powerful people as celebrities to impress and start seeing them as humans with problems to solve, everything changes. Because every powerful person, no matter how successful, has challenges they're struggling with. And if you can position yourself as part of the solution instead of part of the noise, they'll find you. Here's what nobody tells you about powerful people. They're not living in some paradise where all their problems are solved. They're living in a pressure cooker, where every decision has massive consequences, where every mistake costs millions, where every day brings new challenges that could destroy everything they've built. The higher you climb, the more isolated you become. The CEO sitting in the corner office isn't surrounded by friends. He's surrounded by people who need something from him. The investor with hundreds of millions isn't relaxed. She's constantly evaluating risks that could wipe out her fortune. The influential leader isn't confident about everything. They're making decisions with incomplete information while everyone watches. Machiavelli understood this perfectly. He observed that princes, despite all their power, lived in constant anxiety. They worried about rivals, about loyalty, about making the right strategic moves. And the people who gained access to these princes weren't the ones offering entertainment or flattery. They were the ones offering solutions to these anxieties. Powerful people have three primary psychological needs that most people completely miss. First, they need information. They're making decisions that affect thousands of people and millions of dollars, often with limited data. Someone who can provide accurate, timely intelligence becomes invaluable. Second, they need efficiency. Time is their scarcest resource. They don't want long meetings, lengthy explanations, or complicated processes. They want someone who can understand quickly, execute flawlessly, and deliver results without drama. Someone who makes their life easier, not harder. Third, they need discretion. The higher you go, the more sensitive everything becomes. They can't talk freely about their challenges with most people because information leaks, people gossip, and trust is rare. Someone who can hold confidence becomes a precious asset. But here's the key insight. They also need to feel that their judgment in choosing you is validated. Powerful people didn't get where they are by making bad decisions about people. When they invest time in someone, they need that person to make them look smart for the choice. This means you can't just solve their immediate problem. You need to solve it in a way that reflects well on their decision-making. You need to be the person they can point to and say, I saw their potential early, or I knew they were special. Understanding this psychology changes how you approach them entirely. You're not seeking charity or mentorship. You're offering to solve real problems while making them look brilliant for working with you. You're not asking for their help. You're positioning yourself as someone who enhances their power and validates their judgment. Now here's the principle that changes everything. Powerful people are surrounded by abundance in most areas, but they face severe scarcity in others. Everyone wants to sell them something. Everyone wants to network with them. Everyone wants their attention. But very few people can actually deliver what they desperately need. This creates an opportunity that most people completely miss. While everyone else is competing in the crowded space of wanting something from them, you can position yourself in the empty space of having something they need. Machiavelli saw this principle in action across every court he studied. The princes were surrounded by hundreds of courtiers, offering entertainment, flattery, and general service. But they were starving for people who could provide specific valuable capabilities they couldn't find elsewhere. Those rare individuals who possessed unique skills or knowledge became indispensable almost overnight. Think about it this way. A billionaire can buy almost anything. They can hire thousands of employees. They can purchase expert advice. They can access exclusive events and opportunities. But they can't buy someone who genuinely understands their specific situation and can navigate it better than they can. The key is identifying what type of scarcity you can become. Maybe you understand a market they're trying to enter better than anyone else. Maybe you have a network in an industry they need to penetrate. Maybe you possess a skill that directly impacts their biggest challenge. Maybe you can see solutions to problems that their expensive consultants are missing. Here's what's fascinating. It doesn't have to be something massive. Sometimes the most powerful people are stopped by problems that seem small to outsiders, but are critical bottlenecks to them. The CEO who can't find someone who understands both technology and regulation. The investor who needs someone who can evaluate deals in emerging markets. The leader who needs someone who can communicate complex ideas simply. When you become the person who can do what they can't find anywhere else, the dynamic flips completely. Now they're the ones reaching out. Now they're the ones making time in their schedule. Now they're the ones asking for your availability. But here's the crucial part. You can't fake scarcity. You have to actually develop real value that's genuinely rare. This means going deep on something that matters to them, not just surface-level networking or generic skills that everyone has. The moment you stop trying to be everything to everyone and start becoming the only person who can solve their specific problem, you become magnetic to powerful people, because in their world of abundance, true scarcity is irresistible. Most people approach building value the wrong way. They try to be good at everything, instead of being irreplaceable at one thing. They collect generic skills, generic credentials, generic experience, and then they wonder why powerful people don't notice them in a sea of other generalists. Machiavelli understood that influence comes from specialization. The advisors who lasted weren't the ones who could do everything adequately. They were the ones who could do one crucial thing better than anyone else. The military strategist who never lost a battle. The diplomat who could negotiate impossible deals. The spy who could gather intelligence no one else could access. Here's how you identify your unique value proposition. Start with their problems, not your strengths. Most people ask, what am I good at? The right question is, what do powerful people in my target space struggle with that I could solve better than anyone else? Research the specific challenges facing leaders in your industry. What keeps CEOs awake at night? What problems do they pay consultants millions to solve? What gaps exist in their current teams? What trends are they struggling to understand? What decisions are they making with incomplete information? Once you identify a critical problem area, you need to become the definitive expert in solving it. Not just knowledgeable, the person everyone points to when that specific problem arises. This requires going deeper than anyone else is willing to go. While others are skimming the surface, you're diving to the bottom. While others are following trends, you're predicting them. While others are implementing existing solutions, you're creating new ones. This level of expertise can't be bought, borrowed, or faked. It has to be earned through obsessive focus. Here's a concrete example. Instead of being a marketing consultant, become the person who helps B2B software companies break into the Japanese market. Instead of being a business strategist, become the specialist who helps family businesses navigate succession without destroying relationships. Instead of being a technology expert, become the authority on AI implementation for mid-sized manufacturing companies. The narrower your focus, the more powerful your positioning. When someone has that exact problem, there's only one person they think of calling: you. But here's the key. Your specialization must be both narrow enough to make you the obvious choice and broad enough to matter to multiple powerful people. Too narrow, and your market is too small. Too broad, and you're competing with everyone. The sweet spot is finding a specific problem that affects many powerful people in your target market, but that very few others have bothered to master completely. When you own that space, they don't just want to work with you, they need to work with you. Now comes the critical moment. How you actually make contact. This is where most people destroy their chances. Before they even begin, they send generic LinkedIn messages, request meetings without purpose, or lead with what they want instead of what they can give. The Machiavellian approach is completely different. You don't ask for their time. You earn it. You don't request meetings. You create scenarios where they want to meet you. You don't pitch yourself. You demonstrate value so clearly that they draw their own conclusions. Here's the strategic sequence that works. First, you become visible in their world without directly approaching them. You solve problems publicly that are relevant to their challenges. You share insights that demonstrate your expertise. You build a reputation in the spaces where they're paying attention. This isn't about posting motivational quotes on social media. This is about producing content, solutions, or insights that directly relate to the specific problems you've identified. If you're the AI implementation specialist for manufacturing, you publish case studies, you speak at industry events, you solve public problems that manufacturing leaders are discussing. Second, you create what I call strategic proximity. You position yourself in the places where they're already looking for solutions. You become active in the forums they read, the events they attend, the networks they're part of, not as someone seeking access, but as someone providing value to the community. Third, when you do make direct contact, you lead with specific value, not generic introduction. Instead of "I'd love to connect," you send something like, "I noticed your recent acquisition in the Asian market. I've helped 3 similar companies navigate the regulatory challenges in that space. Here's a framework that might be relevant to your situation." Notice what just happened. You demonstrated awareness of their specific situation. You provided immediate value, and you positioned yourself as someone who has solved similar problems before. You're not asking for anything. You're giving something useful. The key is making your first interaction so valuable that ignoring you would be a mistake. They should walk away from your message thinking this person understands our challenges and might have solutions we haven't considered. Machiavelli called this demonstrating virtue before seeking fortune. You prove your value before requesting their attention. You solve their problems before they know you exist. You become indispensable before you ask for anything. When you approach powerful people this way, you're not interrupting their day, you're improving it. You're not adding to their problems, you're solving them. And that's the difference between being ignored and being invited in. Here's where the real magic happens. Once you successfully work with one powerful person, the right approach makes them become your advocate to other powerful people. But this doesn't happen automatically. It requires understanding the psychology of how powerful people talk to each other. When powerful people find someone who genuinely adds value, they don't keep it secret. They share discoveries. Why? Because recommending valuable resources to their peers enhances their own reputation. It makes them look smart, well-connected, and generous. It's social capital in their world. Machiavelli observed this phenomenon in Renaissance courts. The prince, who discovered a brilliant strategist, didn't hide this asset from allied princes. He shared the discovery because it demonstrated his good judgment and strengthened his relationships. The advisor who served one prince well often found himself recommended to others. But here's the crucial distinction. They only recommend people who make them look good for the recommendation. If you solve their problem efficiently and professionally, they're eager to share you with their network. If you create drama, miss deadlines, or require excessive hand-holding, they'll never mention your name again. This means your goal with the first powerful person isn't just to solve their problem. It's to solve it so well that recommending you becomes an easy win for them. You want them thinking, "I found this incredible specialist who handled our situation perfectly." You should definitely talk to them about your similar challenge. The network effect accelerates exponentially. One satisfied, powerful person introduces you to 3 others. If you deliver the same high-quality results, each of those 3 introduces you to their network. Within a relatively short time, you're known throughout the entire ecosystem of powerful people in your space. But this only works if you maintain the same positioning throughout. You never become the person begging for introductions or referrals. You remain the scarce resource that delivers exceptional results. The introductions come naturally because satisfied clients want to share valuable discoveries with their peers. Here's a critical tactical point. When someone powerful offers to introduce you to their network, accept graciously, but don't appear desperate for it. Say something like, "I'd be happy to help if they have similar challenges," rather than, "Yes, please introduce me to everyone you know." The moment you seem hungry for connections, rather than focused on solving problems, you damage your positioning. Powerful people refer specialists who can help their friends, not networkers who want to meet everyone. Stay focused on being exceptionally good at what you do and let the network effects build naturally. When you're genuinely valuable, powerful people become your unpaid sales force. Here's where most people fail. They get access to powerful people and then immediately start taking it for granted. They become too available, too eager to please, too willing to drop everything whenever called. And slowly, inevitably, they transform from scarce resource back into abundant commodity. Machiavelli warned about this exact trap. He observed that advisors who became too comfortable in their positions often lost their influence. They stopped innovating, stopped delivering exceptional value, stopped maintaining the very scarcity that made them valuable in the first place. The moment you become someone's go-to person, you face a dangerous temptation to always say yes. They call with a project, you immediately clear your schedule. They ask for advice, you drop everything to provide it. They need a favor, you rush to accommodate. This feels like good relationship building, but it's actually position destruction. Why? Because powerful people value what they can't easily access. When you make yourself completely available, you signal that you don't have other important work, other valuable clients, other pressing priorities. You accidentally communicate that their business is the only thing keeping you busy. The strategic approach is different. You remain selectively available. When they call with a project, you check your calendar and offer specific times when you can focus on their needs properly. When they ask for advice, you schedule dedicated time to give thoughtful responses rather than quick reactions. This isn't about playing hard to get. It's about maintaining professional boundaries that preserve your value. You're still delivering exceptional results, but you're doing it in a way that respects both your time and theirs. Here's a crucial tactical principle. Always be working on something more important than their current request. Not something you made up to seem busy, but genuine work that advances your expertise, serves other clients, or develops new capabilities. This ensures that when you do focus on their needs, they know they're getting your best attention during dedicated time. You also need to continuously evolve your value proposition. The problem you solved brilliantly 6 months ago might not be their biggest challenge today. Stay ahead of their needs by understanding where their business is heading, what new challenges they're likely to face, what skills they'll need that they don't currently have. Machiavelli called this staying one step ahead of necessity. Don't wait for them to identify problems. Anticipate them. Don't wait for them to ask for new capabilities. Develop them proactively. Don't wait for them to express new needs. Position yourself to meet needs they don't even know they have yet. When you maintain this dynamic, you never become taken for granted because you're always slightly ahead of where they thought you were. Let me show you the exact mistakes that destroy relationships with powerful people, because recognizing these pitfalls is often the difference between lasting influence and sudden irrelevance. Pitfall 1. The gossip trap. You start sharing information about one powerful person with another. This feels like building rapport, but it's actually destroying trust. Powerful people need to know that what they tell you stays with you. The moment they suspect you share their confidences, you're done. Machiavelli emphasized that discretion was the most valued trait in advisors, more important than intelligence, more important than competence. Pitfall 2. The ego inflation. Success with powerful people goes to your head. You start name dropping, posting about your high-level meetings, or treating their connection as a trophy to display. This is career suicide. Powerful people hate being used as social proof for someone else's ego. They want partners who are focused on results, not people who are focused on appearing important. Pitfall 3. The overreach. You mistake access for friendship. You start calling them by their first name before they invite it. You assume you can contact them directly instead of going through proper channels. You act like their peer before you've earned that position. This crashes your relationship faster than any mistake in your work could. Pitfall 4. The expectation creep. You begin expecting their time, their attention, their resources, as if they're owed to you. You get frustrated when they don't respond immediately to your messages. You feel entitled to their consideration for new opportunities. This entitlement kills respect instantly. Pitfall 5. The political misstep. You take sides in their internal conflicts or offer opinions about their personal relationships. Even if they ask for your perspective, this is dangerous territory. Your job is to solve specific problems in your area of expertise, not to become their personal counselor or political advisor. Here's how to avoid these traps. Always remember that your relationship is professional, not personal. Maintain the same level of professionalism and respect that you had when you first approached them. Never assume greater intimacy than they've explicitly granted. Keep your focus on delivering value in your specific domain. Don't expand into areas where you haven't established expertise. Don't offer unsolicited advice outside your wheelhouse. Don't try to become their confidant or strategic advisor unless that's specifically the role they've asked you to fill. Most importantly, remember that your access to them is a privilege, not a right. It can be revoked at any moment for any reason. This isn't paranoia, it's reality, he said. The more aware you are of this dynamic, the more likely you are to maintain it successfully. Powerful people have ended relationships with valuable advisors for much smaller mistakes than these. Stay vigilant. Now let's talk about the endgame. Transforming from someone powerful people occasionally use into someone they cannot imagine operating without. This is where strategy becomes legacy, where tactical success becomes lasting influence. Machiavelli understood that true power wasn't about winning individual battles. It was about becoming so integral to the system that removing you would cause more damage than keeping you. The advisors who lasted decades weren't just competent. They became essential infrastructure in the lives of powerful people. Here's how this transformation happens. You start solving not just their immediate problems, but anticipating their future needs. You begin connecting dots they haven't connected yet. You develop insights about their industry, their challenges, their opportunities that they can't get anywhere else. But more than that, you start becoming the bridge between different aspects of their world. You understand their business challenges and their personal pressures. You see how their public decisions affect their private concerns. You become the rare person who grasps the full complexity of their position. This level of understanding takes years to develop, but it's what separates temporary contractors from permanent trusted advisors. When you understand someone's complete context, not just their current project, you can provide value that goes far beyond your original expertise. The key is evolving your relationship gradually and naturally. You don't announce that you're now their strategic advisor. You simply start providing strategic value. You don't declare yourself indispensable. You just become more useful in more situations until they realize they depend on your perspective. Here's the ultimate test of long-term success. When they face a major decision, do they instinctively want to run it by you? When they encounter an unexpected challenge, are you one of the first people they think to call? When they need someone they can trust completely, does your name come to mind immediately? If you can answer yes to these questions, you've achieved something remarkable. You've moved from being someone in their network to being part of their inner circle. You've transformed from a service provider to a trusted advisor. You've evolved from someone they hire to someone they rely on. This is the Machiavellian ideal, becoming so valuable that your absence creates vulnerability, not through manipulation or politics, but through genuine, irreplaceable value delivered consistently over time. The most successful people who work with powerful individuals understand this. It's not about one perfect project or one brilliant insight. It's about becoming the person they turn to when everything else is uncertain. It's about being the constant in their world of variables. When you reach this level, you don't chase powerful people anymore. They chase you, not because you've played games, but because you've become genuinely indispensable to their success.